All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Wild and Wingless. Tonight, I've got with myself Brett Island from down in Murray Bridge. Brett, thank you very much for joining us. Um,
No,
it
good to
is
be on.
it is Murray Bridge, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, thank
it is.
God. The way you looked, I went, oh, hang on, because I've never been to the famous Brett Island workshop, which is you're in right now, but I've heard all the stories. So, um,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah, man, thanks so much for agreeing to come on tonight. I guess yeah, like I want to know more about you. You've been a very colourful character in wingless racing. I'd like to say you would have to be a part of the wingless history as far as South Australia goes. Could you give us a background into how you got into racing and how you ended up in wingless?
Yeah, I was probably a little bit of a late comer to be honest for the Wings guys, but I basically grew up with the old man crewed on Formula 500s back in the day, so I got dragged around sort of in between tracks and different states over the years, and got to meet and know a lot of the guys and all around the country, and basically to a point where when my old man died, I sort of didn't have a lot of hands on with the guys in the pits anymore, so sort of spent a few years sitting on the outside of the fence watching what was going on, and had probably really intended to always go into 500s because obviously that was what I grew up with, but they sort of priced themselves out of it, and the wingless came along, and obviously started as a bit of an entry level category, or what was they still call a budget category. I'm not sure whose budget it is, but yeah. So it just sort of ticked all the boxes, and yeah, but basically that's where we sort of wet our feet and have gone on from there, and still run the wingless today. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
right. And
it's
you
been
also did you
yep.
dabbled into the speed cars as well, the speed car side. I see that one sitting behind you.
Yeah, so we were a couple of years into running the wingless, and we're starting to sort of, we did a fair bit of racing early, and got to the point where we were, I think my first season we did 38 shows. Like we were
Oh,
pretty heavily, we sat on the fence for a long time outside watching, and sort of like the frustrated teenager when you finally get a crack, you want to do it as much as you can. So,
wow.
yeah, we got right into it, and we had, six or seven guys crewing for us at that stage, and we literally ran every single weekend. So, um, doing laps like that, you sort of get pretty comfortable in the car, and an opportunity presented himself like through Mark Harrington and Ellison to have a go in the speed car. And yeah, we sort of did a little bit of a deal with them to sort of not only start running with them, but eventually end up buying the car, which is hiding over in the corner there, the Triple X. Yeah, and ran that for a few years until obviously we bought it, and yeah, we've sort of been around the speed cars. It's sort of one of those categories that is hard to sort of have a really hot crack in unless you really want to throw some big money at it. But yeah, obviously we bought a new car, which is the one sitting over my shoulder here, which is if we do start running much again, that'll be what we run into. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. I remember vividly. I got the call up to come down and help crew for you down at Parramatta back in the day, but I don't think you'll be calling me again to crew for you because you ended up pretty bad that night, eh? Like far out. What did you end up doing to yourself?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do like Parramatta. It's funny, like it's probably my favourite track to be honest.
Yeah, right.
We went over there to run against the Kiwis when they came out and had the internationals there, which was the opportunity of a lifetime really to run against. I think that was about 16 of them came out, and they brought a couple of containers over, and ran the 50 lapper, and they ran the week before, which was the Super Series final.
Mhm.
Um, and we didn't do too bad. We were leading the heat in the for the 50 lapper and the fuel tap. I'm pretty sure that was the 50 lapper that the fuel tap turned off, and we sort of lost a few spots there, which put us in the B. And we were running in a transfer in the B main, and Andy Pearce lost the handle on it, and we sort of had nowhere to go, and just sort of nudged into Andy, and it was enough to turn us around. And these things, the old midgets go pretty over pretty easy when you go left hand side down. So, and then had the luck of another car decide to run underneath us and gave us a pretty good shunt, which broke my arm and sort of actually shattered my T5 or C5, T5, one of the ones in the back there, and a couple of other vertebrae. So, yeah, didn't really realise it at the time, but yeah, wasn't
No,
in the best way. So,
because
nah.
I remember driving you back to your hotel there in Parramatta, and you got out of my ute and walked, and then
Yeah.
a couple of days later, I get this text from you with your X-rays, and I'm thinking, how? What? Like, how is he walking? A, you're walking. B, you're joking with us. You even
Yeah.
helped load up the mule into the truck.
Well, that was an
Like,
ordeal in itself
far
on
out.
its own, wasn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, I was trying to do as much as I could because obviously, yeah, that's what you do. Yeah,
Man.
not realizing the extent of it. Not sure whether it was, still a bit of an adrenaline or whatever, but like the car was absolutely fine. Like there's a
Yeah.
little tiny ding in the bottom of the chassis. Like I said to the guys, if that was a heat race, I would have tried to get in and run the next main. Like I would have been out there in the B main. Like,
Yeah.
didn't really feel it. You don't know really. I sort of the back was a little bit tender, but I just figured that was where my Hans device was sitting in my hybrid because they sort of sit there in the middle of your back, and thought, maybe I'd sort of bruised it a little bit from that. And yeah, the next morning when I woke up, I was pretty stiff and sore on the elbow. It was giving me probably more grief than my back. But yeah, we got in the truck and drove home and thought, well, better go and get it checked out. I think my elbow might be a bit shagged here. And
Yeah.
yeah, found it was a little bit more than that. So
All
yeah.
right. Well, mate, I'm glad it didn't stop you from racing. You got back in, but that's a testament to how tough you are. That's for sure. Now I've spoken to a few other people on this podcast, mainly aimed at the wingless base thing. I feel wingless doesn't get enough credit that we should get. Now, I don't think I've spoken to anyone who's driven speed cars and wingless. So, is there any chance? Just treat me like someone sitting on the hill, any expert.
Yep.
Can you take anything from the speed car to take to the wingless, and can you take anything from wingless to speed car? Like, is there anything in that driving style at all?
Realistically, there is, but it's sort of. I think it's more of a case with the speed car. You don't learn bad habits that you would if you were coming from a sprint car and a wingless, because the sprint car guys rely on that wing so much, whereas the speed car, again, you don't have that. So um, there's, I think the big thing with coming from the speed car back into the wingless is obviously everything slows down a little bit. It makes it a lot easier. Um, there's times in the speed car where if the car's not right, it's an absolute pig to drive. And the wingless is also the same sort of way. The wingless they're under pad. That's the biggest thing with wings. They're a lot harder to drive because of that. And you realise that once you step into a car with a horsepower like the speed car, you can get yourself out of trouble and move around a lot more. If you back it in, you're coming in shallow, you can, just stand on the gas and the thing will actually walk backwards, and, you'll move up out of the corner and you can move around, you can change lines. The wingless, I feel that a lot of the time you have to sort of overcommit to a move or a line because they don't have the power to move like from the top to the bottom unless it's a gut slick track. Even if you had two lines, it's really hard to move around mid corner, which I think is a reason why we do have not necessarily a lot of the bigger accidents, but we do have a lot of guys get impatient and start making moves that probably aren't quite there. And you do learn to drive a lot more patiently with the speed car as well. You've got to have a lot of respect for those things because they hurt you pretty easily.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
No, okay, good, good. Now one of the things that sort of attracted me to get you onto this show here, you haven't, you're not so much a full-time driver so much anymore, but it's the contribution you've made to this division. I didn't know you we didn't know you at all. We came over to Murray Bridge or wherever it was, Murray Bridge in 2017. We needed gear sets, needed help. First time there, you couldn't give us enough assistance, help. I'm pretty sure at one stage there, you left your truck at the track with your mule sitting outside, and you gave us like parting words when you left, saying, "Everything's open. Grab whatever you need. I'll see you in the morning." Like you didn't know us from a bar of soap. So, but you've always done that. You've always been very helpful to everyone in the division. Like you just hear of the stories about Brett Island's race shop, like the parties that go on, the barbecues. You're very accommodating. I guess my question to you is, what do you get out of doing that for other people when it's your competition? But like it's a thing that you've always done.
Yeah, like I said, I grew up with the 500 guys, and I still remember nights where I vividly remember a state title at Murray Bridge one night where Darren Disbury destroyed his motor. So literally came back in the pits. They put the car up on stands and said to everybody else, "If you need something, you grab it." And by the A main, there was guys running, and he was running a bright orange Fanta car. I don't know how many guys around long enough to remember that car, but by the A main there was orange wheels on one car, there was an orange wing on another one. Like it's just what I grew up with. Like if someone needs a hand, you give them a hand. Like it's not the end of the world. I mean, most guys are good enough that you get your stuff back, you either get it back in the condition it was, or they give you something new back.
Yep.
So as long as they do that and they respect that, I mean, you help them out. There's no reason to. I'd rather beat someone on the track than have a part in the pits that could get someone on the track and, you know, don't give it to them and they can't race against you. Like we all work pretty hard to go out there and go racing. So if you can let someone else do it, why not? Because you hope in turn that you'll get the same back if you need something.
Well, I think, yeah,
and
you're right.
We have.
Hey?
Yeah, I mean, we have as well. Like over the years, like the first call we made when we went to Parramatta was to Blido, like, oh, what gear sets do we need? Oh,
Did he
shit,
tell
we
you?
haven't got that. Yeah, straight away. Like, he goes,
Blido told you
funny,
the gear sets?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
I actually borrowed a set off him. And the funny bit was, we're in the first time I've ever driven at Parramatta, we're in the same heat as Blido. We started in front of him in the heat and we ended up winning the heat and he was behind it. So it was like, okay,
Nice.
righto, cheers for the gear set. You know.
Nice.
But, you know, that's the kind of thing you do when you're in the sport for long enough, you know people and, you know, there's no, yep. I'd prefer to help guys, you know, even especially with the new guys.
Yep.
If you can help them out as much as you can to get them so they're on the pace, it makes it a lot easier to drive against them. Because the last thing you want to do is come up on someone who's got a car that's handing like a bucket of shit because they don't know how to set it up.
Yep.
And they take you out because, you know, they can't even get around the corner properly. So if you can do something to make them better, you know, you always get the guys when they start getting competitive and start knocking on the door of knocking you off that tend to get a little bit more coy about what they tell people, but you know, that's part of the game, I guess. So, yeah.
No, that's true. Well, I mean, if you look at things that we're going to discuss it, but yeah, karma did come back, and all that good karma you gave to others came back and repaid itself. I'm pretty sure to yourself. I'm going to refer to the last round of the Super Series. Was that 2019? 2020 season, something like that?
Yeah, just before COVID sort of destroyed it. Just it was starting to build some momentum as a class and get a nice little national series happening. So, yeah.
Yep. And, all right, talking about that, because I didn't see you I didn't go to round one, but I guess you didn't go round one at Toowoomba.
Yeah, no, the first couple of rounds were all in the eastern states and we were sort of pretty busy with what we were doing here and we were preparing, we had the Australian Speed Car title at Warrnambool, so we were sort of, we'd already looked at dates. Date clashes meant that we weren't going to be able to do a couple of rounds, even if we really wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment you get a few date clashes, you write something off, and there's no point, you know, trying to do a series if you can't do all the rounds, especially when the price of diesel and stuff to drive to Toowoomba, and it's not a small thing. I mean, yeah. So we'd already looked at that, decided that we're going to go to Warrnambool and do the title and try and do as much speed car racing as we could that year. So that's what we did.
Yep. And so when it came back around to the Murray Bridge round, talk to me how this happened, because
I think the start of the year, the word got out that it was going to be a $10,000 win round, you know, at race, and pretty much everybody lit up right across the country. Like you knew the guys would drag from WA, especially with the Aussie title being the week before at Kalgoorlie. They were always going to be halfway here. You know, everyone else that had already committed from Queensland to do the series by doing the first couple of rounds, we're going to come down. It was always going to be what was looking like the biggest wingless show ever, and justifiably so. With 10 grand on the line, you'd certainly want it to be.
Yep.
So, of course, I was dead keen to run it, being at Murray Bridge, and you know we sort of know our way around the track. Ironically, Murray Bridge is probably one of my worst tracks, so I don't really get around there that well. So, but you want to do it because, well, wouldn't you want to have a crack at 10 grand? So, yeah. Fast forward a bit, we get to Warrnambool for the speed car title, and we're sort of talking because I had two cars sort of pretty much ready to go either way, and I'd been talking with Tom Payette, and he'd been running for Lyle in the Haysbury stock feed car there and done a few shows, done a state title here and stuff, and he wasn't real sure where he stood coming around in someone else's car at the same time. So I'd been sort of talking to Buddha about maybe coming around the second car here. And push came to shove and Buddha sort of couldn't do it for whatever reason. And we were parked next to the Joneses. You know, Graham Jones and Beck and Gwen, and they had Alex Bright driving for him in the speaker. Yeah, he's not a bad little peddler. I ended up running second at the speed car title that year when I was chasing Macedo down actually, and yeah, in a few more laps he might have been having a crack at winning that. So yeah, he sort of overheard a little bit of what was going on with Buddha because the WA boys and the time with the Joneses, and Beck sort of mentioned to him, would he be interested in racing and coming over here if Buddha didn't do it? And yeah, basically the rest is history. We ended up with Alex coming over and having a drive rather than his other alternative was to sit in the truck with one of Jonesy's crew guys and drive back across the Nullarbor. So he was pretty keen to find a way out of that. He's not a very good passenger, I can tell you. So yeah, he was pretty keen to come and do that. So he came for the week, and yeah, we went from there, and yeah, did all right.
I like how you're very short and sweet with that, but let's break it down because that's the thing that I remember when I heard or caught wind that Alex Bright was going to be in your car. I was trying to sort of work out the logistics of it. Like, how is this going to work? Did you guys need to fit another seat in the car? Did he hop straight into your seat? How did he go with all of a sudden driving I don't know if it's an 87 or whatever you've got, 40 chassis with a little Buick V6? Like, talk to me about that sort of stuff. How are we going with that?
Yeah, so I was reasonably sceptical as well because I've seen a lot of the sprint car guys jump into a wingless, and it's not easy to do. That we don't get enough credit for how hard these things are to actually drive. And about the only other person I've seen jump straight in and do any good was I remember watching Danny Smith drive Jack Lee's car at Lang, and I mean it's a different type of track completely, and he made him look stupid there that night. But luckily, Alex, they've got a class in the States called Sportsman's, which are a V6 pads, basically a sprint car. So very, very similar sort of thing. And he has run them before. And I mean, obviously, Alex is basically a professional racer. He's driven everything. He's now driving non-wing in the States, but a lot of laps in a lot of different cars. And part of the thing before we'd even left for Warrnambool was trying to find out whether he'd be having to start off the back and whether it was even feasible to do that. So we made a call to the AWSR committee because they're all in Kalgoorlie for the Aussie title that weekend, and said, he's interested in driving. I know that Murray Bridge is trying to make this a standalone event. Basically, they wanted it to be like the Classic was the original thing for the 60 lapper. So to allow guys, and they actually wanted guys to come from sprint cars into wingless and, basically be able to say, we've got a Brooke Tatnell or a Luke Dillon and one of those guys in here as well to make it an event, to try and give, the casual supporter that only goes to sprint cars, try and get them to come and have a look as well, to try and make wingless into a little bit more of a showcase in that particular event. I rang the guys at Murray Bridge as well, said to Darren, Alex is interested in driving. And the AWSR said if we can get it okayed by the chief steward, and the AWSR committee said if we can send some video of Alex doing some laps to show that he's capable of handling the car, and which was never going to be a problem, that then if they'd run it past the chief steward and have a word with it and see if they'd let us in the draw. So we drove back from Warrnambool. I can't remember whether it was a Sunday or the Monday we got back. Went over the track, and one of the other guys from the bridge was over there doing a practice. And we tagged in, and Buddha actually came back with us and stayed that night. He went over and Alex did some laps. We sent it through. They okayed it. And we then rocked up to obviously race. So that was the start of what was happening to make sure we're allowed to actually do what we wanted to do. The fact that he started in the draw ended up being worth pretty much nothing, because the first night we didn't do too bad, but it was we had some dramas. We blocked some injectors basically the first night. So we went out, and because they had the two mains the first night, and they weren't worth any points. So they were basically just a piece of plastic on the line. So we cleaned the injectors, changed it, made sure that was what we were doing, what the issue was, sent him out. We did a few laps, he pulled in, no dramas. The second night we dropped our heat though. We broke a radiator support and it cut a line, which I wasn't really impressed with. But basically, yeah, so we dropped the heat, which meant we actually started in the B main. So, you know, to have someone like that, the car as a car owner, and your car fails twice, it's not really something that I was really happy with. He started mid-pack in the B main, and I thought, well, this is going to be the challenge. If he makes it out of the B main, I figured his race experience and his fitness, didn't matter where he started in the A main. I thought he'd be a shot, especially if the track went wide. Purely, you know, the runs on the board and the race experience would be enough that he'd be a reasonable chance. So,
Matt, hang on. Sorry, before you keep going, sorry, I just want to stop there for a second. Sorry. There's a lot to digest.
Yeah, yep.
So you sort of hit it there, but I'm just trying to think, what would my headspace be like? I've got this American driver who's proven himself numerous times over again, more times than I can count.
Yeah.
He's hopped into my car, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you've always had presentable cars. You always have had very presentable cars, right? You've had two freak of nature problems, right?
Yeah, the injectors are pretty common, but yeah.
Well, I don't normally see a DNF next to your name. That's well, due to a car issue like that. Maybe being involved in a wreck or something, different story. But what would have been going through your head, like walking down the ramp of the truck after you've just put a radiator in or whatever it is, and you're thinking, like, here I've got this dude. Like, were you guys still talking right? Were you still vibing on the same level? Was it starting to become a little bit hostile between you two? Like, I'm not trying to say, like, were you guys, like, was he starting to have doubts?
Alex is one of the most laid back guys. I mean, apart from probably Andy Hibbert, he's probably one of the more laid back blokes I've worked with when it comes to racing.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Because he didn't really know the car, he sort of trusted, whatever we wanted to do. And when we went over and did the practice at the bridge, we sent him out, and it was a dry slip. It was a Monday night afternoon track. Like the track was gone. And he went out there and he did a couple of laps, and we videoed that, which is what we actually sent through. And he came back in and he goes, that there wasn't on the track. I said, we can do, we can make some changes to the car to, what I'd do to send it back out there. So we put some turns in it and had a little bit of a play and sent him back out. And he came back in. I'm pretty sure the moment he came back in, he sort of trusted what we're going to do with the car from there, because he goes, that was good enough. So
right, wow.
I think that showed enough for him to realise that we had half an idea what we're doing. Because I know the moment we started talking about doing it, I know he spoke to a couple of people before we'd even left Warrnambool, had asked people what my gear was like. Because someone of his calibre isn't going to put himself in shit gear.
No, can't afford to.
And you listen to guys like Scalesy, one of the things that I've heard from podcasts with them is you don't put yourself in crap equipment because you can't just, do yourself justice in shit gear. So, the fact that he had a half idea, the car was all right. We'd spent the week stripping it down and rebuilding it, which is ironically why the radiator support let go. And I don't want to say I didn't do it, but yeah. Anyway, so that was one of the minor things. We got him back out for that B main, and I think the biggest challenge of the weekend was actually making the transfer out of there. So I remember as soon as he made the transfer, we were running back to the pits, and I ran past mate from over here, Shattuck was sitting on the mule, and I said to Darren, watch this. Now he's in the main. He's coming from the back. You'll get your show now. Like, this is going to be worth watching.
Yeah, right.
Sent him out there, and I think about the second or third lap, I just watched the car, because the track was reasonably hooked up, which was not what we expected at all. Mm-hmm. There was a few holes, and we just watched the car roll out of turn two, and the way it was walking, like the rear end was moving, going down the back straight, and it was stuck, and just went, we're on here. We're a big chance. So, and I know there's a few guys that aren't happy that Alex drove, and you get all the.
But
There's a
okay,
lot of people.
what aren't they happy about? What did he get over everyone else?
Well, I think it's one of those things when people beat you, they start deciding that they didn't. He shouldn't have been racing, or it shouldn't have been in the draw, or he shouldn't have been doing this, or you get those haters, and I mean, it's funny because for me, coming from speed cars, I love racing against the Yanks. Like, it's one of the best things. Like, I can say that I've raced against Larson and Bell and, Macedo, like to roll around in the front row of a prelim and Aussie title with, Castle Macedo sitting next to you. Like,
Yeah,
it's
right. Yeah.
cool to do. And like,
Yeah.
and I know all the wingless guys. There was talk at the start of the year Dave Darlin was going to be driving a car
I
for
did hear that. Yeah.
the Mildred boys. And everybody got excited about that.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to
Well,
race against.
okay. I mean, I've heard it come across me up here in New South Wales. Might even be like last season, like Michael Pickens, he's going to come play. And it's like, you hear these names and stuff, and you think, as much as people are quick, if they are quick to shoot down, I'm trying to understand why they've got a problem with Alex Bright driving the car. But if, to me, it just raises that level of stature for that race. Like,
Yeah, when you want your class to take a step forward,
yep.
if you can put guys of that ilk into the cars and actually into the category, why wouldn't you? I mean,
Absolutely.
there's guys, obviously there's that sore loser, the old get bitter instead of getting better sort of thing. It happens, the old tall poppies. But, I love it. I'd heard Pickens was going to be driving in, the national series that's supposed to be happening. And this year I got excited about that and thought, I'd love to race against Michael in one of these things. I mean, I've raced against Michael, half a dozen times in the midget, and I enjoy it every time I do. To race him in a class that I should have an advantage over Michael is something that I'd really love to do. And funnily enough, we had the speed car 50 lap here at the end of last year, and Michael ended up in the shed here working on the car. He's had some dramas the first night, and I'm one of those people. I don't beat around the bush. I'd heard the rumor. I went straight up to him and asked him, and knew nothing of it. So,
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot down. There's people out there trying to the old this way, that way speedway. People make up rumors to get traction and get some attention. But
let me ask you one thing about that 60 lapper. Was that 60 laps from start to finish, or did you guys stop at lap say 30 for a fuel stop? Or
there was no fuel stop. We did have a couple of stoppages. There was a big run. I think there was a yellow early. I'm spewing I don't have a copy of the race anymore. The old pay-per-view getting shut down and losing all the archive footage. I'm devastated.
No way, that's gone.
It is gone, unless someone's got someone out there on a DVD.
I'm going to have to, all right, we're going to throw it out there. I know someone up there. Let's try and get this happening. All right.
Yeah, it'd be cool. But I know there was a stoppage later in the race, and I think it was Luke Storer was behind us then. And Luke had been the one that was leading, and Alex had chased him down and passed him. And that was probably the most tense I was during the race. I remember sitting there watching him thinking, as long as he got the car rotated into one, I knew we were good again. But if he had gone into one and got a push or, opened the door somehow, that was another story. But yeah, once we got through 1-2 that lap, well, it might have only been with if there was 10 to go, I'd be surprised. So he'd done the hard work and driven past everybody, which I think everybody sort of has to respect that. And whether you like him beating you or not, the guys on the podium all came up and they realised that they got beaten by someone who was better on the night, and realistically, they realised that they need to lift their game, and that's part of racing. You want to race against those guys because you get to find out where you are as a driver as well.
That's right.
There's no point big fish in a small pond thinking you're the best around, and all of a sudden you get your pants pulled down, and you realise maybe you can improve yourself as well.
Yeah. So all right. So talk to me through it. So he's gone across the line. You guys have done it. You've done almost what you conceived as the unthinkable. How was that? Did you go to the infield or did you stay?
Yeah.
All right. So you went to the infield?
I went out and watched from the main straight because I've sat on the main straight at Murray Bridge since I was in nappies. So
Yep.
went out and sat where my mum was and my missus and the kids were.
Yep.
And I paced up and down the main straight pretty badly for a few laps there at the start of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as he sort of finished and pulled in, we sort of jumped through the little gate there at the start finish line and ran out and sort of waited till he got off the scales, and then got on and jumped around and did all the usual stuff you do when you
What was
carry
that
on when you
first?
just want to race like that.
Yeah. What was that first conversation like? What was that? What was the first thing you said to him?
I can't even remember, to be honest.
Can't say it.
Probably wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a few words that were pretty excited. So, I know Rolsey was stuck in the pits. A mate of mine from Tassie had come over to give us a hand as well. Ironically, he's come to a lot of the big shows and Aussie titles and stuff with us as well. And we sort of go right when Rolsey's there. But yeah, the three of us sort of. Well, it was nothing stupid. I think we were talking to the other drivers as well because all the other guys sort of came over and. It was a really good little atmosphere out in the, with Batesy and Wheelie and the guys out there, Storers, and, all those guys are out there as well. So, yeah.
Hats off to you guys.
The job was done. So,
yeah. And the party afterwards back at the shed?
Yeah, I think we were the last ones to leave the track that night. I think there was a couple of vintage guys that stayed at the track that night, and we rolled back through with this massive trophy. We grabbed the cab, left the truck and everything there in the car full of shit, and jumped in the cab and rolled through Macca's on the way home and finished off another couple of boxes of beer when we got back here. And it wasn't a bad little night, but again, it was sort of the three of us when we got back here, and it was actually good because got to sit down and relax a little bit and talk it through between the three of us. And
one of the biggest things when you have, I haven't achieved anything of that magnitude, but you got to sort of remember to sit back and take it in, because if you don't, before you know it's the next day and the moment's gone.
100%. That's one of the cool things about, like I said, I know and have come to know a lot of the guys through the years and have a lot of guys come and stay with us and race from, when they're in the bridge. One of the best things about Speedway, which is why I love it, is the friends and family you meet over the years. Like, I've got friends in every state of the country, like every corner of the country. I've just come back from Cody Brown's wedding in Broome, and we get guys like that who have come and stayed with us. I think we had 6 years in a row where someone had come and stayed here with us or worked out of our shed, and they won an Aussie title that year. Guys like Cody or King Shots or Will Shear and guys like that. And it's not like wingless guys; it's every division.
Yep.
And that's what I love about this. Like, good mates that I can call up anywhere I go around the country, and you've had nights where we've sat out under the pergola like till the sun comes up, which is a problem with having guys from WA because they do that pretty much every time they come here.
Yep.
But yeah, you learn to sort of take some of the moments in, and it's the little things like even fishing the empty beer cans out of Cody Brown's soup sedan the next day after he won the Aussie title here at the car wash and shit like that, where it's just you and the crew guys, and you sort of actually talk about what happens, and not just carrying on like idiots when you're on the piss at the time. You're relaxed, and you do get to take it in a little bit more.
So where is that trophy now? That big 60-lapper trophy?
It's about the only trophy I can tell you where it is. It's sitting in the workshop at my work. So
nice. Okay, so
you walk in, you got the desk there, and there's a couple like the Apprentice of the Year ones and stuff like that I got sitting there from work, and then there's this great big blue thing with a helmet sitting on the corner there. That's the only racing trophy that I have at the workshop, and to be honest, it's probably about the only place it'd fit because I haven't exactly got any trophy shelves or anything sitting around here that I built for something that size. So
did
Alex took the actual head bit, the little helmet on the top.
Yep.
That was the only bit he cared about. He goes, "Oh, that's cool. I haven't got one of those little helmet bits." So we gave him that one, and I found out who the trophy builder was, and just went and got another bit, and
nice.
So sitting there doing that. Yeah.
Because I was going to ask, what did Alex take from that deal? But obviously he took the trophy head.
Few green notes, huh? The next morning I literally walked into his bedroom while he was still, still hungover and half asleep, and threw $5,000 at him and said, "Wake up, we're going to wash the car." So yeah,
Nice.
no, it's pretty cool. But yeah, and then like we had that day kicking around town, and then we put him on a plane back to Perth to go and run the WA Speed Car title for the next weekend, I think it was. So
Man,
yeah,
what a time
just
for
a
him.
little trip for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was great. Like, and I think the other thing with Alex, like when he was here during the week, I mean, we busted our ass and pulled that car down. There was literally a bare chassis again during the week and rebuilt it, and just to make sure everything was right. And like I said, I'd originally planned to run 2 cars, and if Buddha had a run, I would run 2 cars and run myself as well. But with Alex running, I sort of stepped aside and went, "No, we'll put everything into this because you got to do it justice." Yeah, so we spent a couple of days pulling the car down and put it together, and I just sort of handed Alex some mute keys and said, whatever you want to do, if you want to go to Adelaide and look around. And I think he discovered what Tinder was doing at that time, and disappeared for a couple of nights in Adelaide there at one stage as
there
well.
you go.
But
Yep.
it's when you go away racing sometimes, or whenever you go away with people, it's nice to have that little bit of time on your own as well.
Yep.
And I think he sort of appreciated that as well. Wasn't trying to, follow him around everywhere, and big deal having him here, sort of relax and let him be himself as well, which is all you can sort of ask when you go away to race with people as well. Let them do their own thing, and
Yeah, absolutely.
relax. They don't
Well,
feel under pressure.
that's like the most. I think that deal you guys did was like the perfect hired gun. I've heard of in wingless racing. Do you think so? Just sort of moving forward, I don't want to take limelight off that, but do you think like wingless needs more of those events? I mean, of course, everyone's going to say yes, but I guess it comes down to 10 grand on the line, one race. Do we need that, or do wingless need a series?
I definitely think the series is a good thing, but standalone events like that are definitely something that we could use. I mean, like I said, the original concept of that from the Murray Bridge Club and Made to Go, even though it was part of the series, was to basically make that into our classic every year. And they wanted to build that and build it and build it. And it's, I can't really say what I think, but I can't believe that it's basically turned into nothing now. There's been a few years where it's date clashed with Victorian titles, and I don't think it's been done the justice that it should have as an event. I think the clubs should have worked harder to keep that as a real standalone prestige event. The series is great, and it's something that we do need. But again, like I said, the problem with the series is the expenditure to run a full series. It's a big commitment.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a few guys who can afford to spend, it's $5,000 to drive from here to Toowoomba in diesel. You then turn around and drive home for a couple of weeks and then drive back to Sydney or drive to, wherever. And as much as it's the price of the diesel and the travel, it's also the time that it takes. For someone who's got a business, for me to take days off of work to drive the truck is as much of an issue as obviously the cost to drive it there. We don't have, if you've got dedicated crew guys, like I know Broomy's got guys like Crowy and stuff like that, who are able to do that sort of stuff for him, which takes the weight off of their shoulders. But a lot of us don't have that. So to do a series, pretty much, guys who work a job 9 to 5, they've got 4 weeks of holidays a year. 2 weeks are taken up over Christmas. They've pretty much committed every single day off they've got for the year just to do the series. And it is a big thing, and it's hard to do. That's why, in my eyes, for a series, they need to do things back to back. Like if you can do 2 rounds on a weekend and then do another 2 rounds another weekend, so you're only doing 1 or 2 big travels a season, that's how you need to work it in. I mean, even this year, you've got the last round of the series is supposed to be the week before the Aussie title at Mildura. It's a great idea and it works, but you've then got to commit that whole week, which the Aussie title week's not a big thing to commit because usually with scrutineering and practice and stuff, you're there anyway. So that sort of works. But yeah, it's still 2 weekends basically sort of drive there. So, and then you drive home a couple of days afterwards. So works out to pretty much be 2 weeks just to go and do those two races.
See, I guess when I look at what other series are happening, I'm not going to say across Australia because some stuff could be happening in WA, and I just don't know about it. I want to. I'm
Yeah,
trying to reach out to guys in WA to talk to them to find out what's going on there.
yeah,
But when you look at stuff, for example, we had a mini version of the Chariots up in North Line there. That was a pretty good run, but one track only. Look at what Victoria were doing with the SummerSlam series.
yep,
Then I
yep,
also look at what South Australia were doing with the Ty Bill series.
yep.
Now, a lot of those tracks I was unfamiliar with, so I had to do a lot of Google Maps and do all that sort of stuff there, and a lot of YouTubing to see those tracks. But those series, to me, especially the SummerSlam series, they
Yep.
really prove to me that we want or we enjoy series. We want to race in
Oh,
series. We want to race in,
yeah.
and
I
I
mean, the SummerSlam's the perfect event, really, because you most people already having time off work. Then you've got 3 rounds condensed all at the same time. It's one travel to do 3 rounds within a stone's throw of each other. And if you could do that, I mean, it'd be perfect. It's
yeah
not really practical with outside of that time of year, and that's that Christmas period. It is hard to do that because you've got to have tracks having shows on the right weekends. There's not a lot of back to backs. I mean, back in when we started, you used to get the back to backs with Adelaide run one night and then Murray Bridge run the other, and you'd be able to do stuff like that. It'd be perfect, but realistically, it just doesn't happen that way with track scheduling anymore.
no.
And it'd be great if it did.
Well,
You know,
I look. I mean, I'm not putting anything on the SummerSlam. When we met in 2017, 2017, sorry.
yeah,
That was at the. Now I always thought it was Victorian, but it was the South Australian Club ran Easter Trail,
yeah,
and we've always wanted to do that Easter Trail ever since. Like every
yeah,
single
yeah,
time I see a calendar come out, I'm like, Easter, we're going Mildura and wherever else, right? And
yeah,
it's, I mean, South Australia have kept an Easter Trail, but because it sort of takes off at like Renmark or there's another track I'm not sure of the name, starts with W, I think. They
yeah.
sort of
Wait, yeah,
yeah, and I'm sort of going, oh, why? I'd love to have that Mildura Murray Bridge deal again. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. I mean, in a perfect world, you'd have big tracks that are all scheduled to run. To do that. I mean, the Easter Trail sort of died off a fair bit here. Unfortunately, Waker and Renmark. I mean, they're country tracks and we need them,
Yep.
but they're not exactly high-profile tracks and tracks that a lot of guys want to run at. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it'd be great if everybody wanted to run and support those little tracks, but the double-edged sword is those smaller tracks sometimes don't have the financial capacity to accommodate 40 wingless cars coming to race there because
Yeah.
by the time they pay out, I mean, they've got a limited crowd, so their income to pay out drivers is pretty small. And if they have 40 cars come and race, they can't necessarily afford to pay everybody. Whereas if they have 15 to 20 cars, then they're all right. They're
Right.
happy enough to pay that amount. They're not going to get any more people on the hill through or come through their gate if they double the cars. So it
Yeah.
sort of
Okay.
works out to not have huge car counts.
Yep. Yep.
Um, they might get an extra 100 people maybe at best if they double the car count. So, and that's one of the difficult things with the smaller tracks. And wingless. One of those different. I'm just choking. We are a division that have obviously a massive car count, and we have the potential to rock up with 40, 50 cars.
Yep.
If you have a big event and a trail like that works out. I mean, you need to look at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
They had to cap that. I mean, because the tracks can't accommodate us in the pits along with everybody else as well. So
Do,
yeah,
do you think I mean, I don't know, and I could be wrong, but I'm just going to spitball it out there. Someone will turn around and say I'm an idiot. But do you think it could get to the point where, because that SummerSlam series, we couldn't, or not we, but yeah, we couldn't put on more cars because I think the pits were at capacity based on the other support divisions. So
yeah,
my question is,
yeah.
could we ever see a series like your SummerSlam? Could that grow to a point where they're the main guys. If they bring you 60 cars, then we just run them. Because look, at the end of the day, and people hate it, we're the most expensive wheel packers around, but we can wheel pack. Like, we can actually pack. As much as we all hate it because we want to pretend we're something different.
Sometimes it's good fun.
Yeah, we've got. Do you know? Okay, here's something for you, Brett. You might understand this, and I hope you do. But this is an idea I got from Ray Eggers from Northern Rivers.
Yep.
And it's about wheel packing, right? And he said they did something up there where they said to their members, right, guys, bring a flag. And when he told me this, I thought, what the hell you mean bring a flag? But you bring those banners from local businesses, strap them to your car, and it's called now a parade lap. Now, people are going to say, Andrew, you're an idiot. You're wasting our time. Well, hang on a second. What are we trying to bring to our sport? We're trying to bring a few things. One's called money.
Yep.
The other one's called bumps in seats or eyes. Well, we can do that if we just give a little back. What do you think about something like that, where we incorporated a parade lap sort of deal, similar to what they do up there? And I think if you were to go, say, through the towns of Murray Bridge or through the towns of Western Sydney, if we get Eastern Creek back online again, or wherever you want to go, I think Mildura would be in on it because that's a great community there. I just see things. Sure. We have a great foundation. We just need to work it better, and things may change. But that's anyway. So I've just sort of jumped around a few things there. But
no, for sure, I reckon. I remember watching the sprint cars when they were doing engine starts, and you see guys like Matt Eagle used to run a big Hooligators flag out the back of his car back in the day, and stuff like that. So why wouldn't you take the opportunity? If we're going to be out there, going around at snail's fart, we may as well do something that helps either our sponsors or in turn our own category. And you look after your sponsors and eventually end up with a bit more in your pocket to go racing, hopefully as well. So if we're going to be out there doing it, why not?
I mean, I look at every time we wheel pack, for some reason, if there's something on your car that's not right, we normally find it then and there. At a low running, it's great. Whereas when we go to other places and we don't get the wheel pack, you like go out for that first race, you go, damn it. Whatever.
Nothing works. You only got to be someone who misses the first couple of shows of the season and you jump into the car and you can almost guarantee you'll draw pole in your first heat race and you roll out there and just go, oh shit, I hope this thing's right. You just put it back together again. You haven't had a chance to shake it down. You want to have that chance to go out there. It settles you in the car as well. As much as it's a bit like riding a bike, you'd still like to knock the rust off of things and get a lap under your belt, and wheel packing's a good way to give it a squirt before you do that sort of stuff too.
I mean, that's what I think. But I mean, as I said before, you've been around long enough. And I'm not saying Wingless is in a bad place. I'm not saying that at all. But what could we do to sort of help things move along, or not put us in the right direction, but just get us that next thing? Because you look at it, we got almost more cars registered than what sprint cars do.
Yeah, I love the category. I think we're at a point where, I think transparency is a big issue we've got in this class at the moment, and I think that's the same with Speedway in the world in general with a lot of things. There's misinformation is probably the worst thing that can happen, and one way to stop misinformation is to actually have proper transparency. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening at a national level when it comes to committees and stuff that we're not privy to, that realistically a lot of these questions and rumours could be answered if we're told things. Just that, not only transparency, but it also provides a little bit of accountability to what happens. Like, there's been things put forward that we don't know why they haven't happened or why nothing's progressed from it. And people start making up their own reasons and stories like that. So that's one thing this division needs. I know a lot of people when it comes to higher up and, their CCA people, and you hear stories back from them as to why this happened rather than hearing it from your own division.
Yep.
And it's not good. Just little things like that. You can stop a lot of the issues and the innuendo by just actually telling us what's going on. Like, there's obviously the engine is an issue we've got at the moment moving forward. We've got this engine committee that seems to be this big mystical, no one knows what's going on with it. There's a handful of people who are involved or been sort of included into that circle. The rest of us don't know who they are, what's going on, what they're trying to do, which way we're moving. We sort of all have ideas or have heard rumours and guesses, and we might have a fair idea, but we don't know for sure. And like I said, the way to stop that is to just tell us.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm,
I do remember when I called you up and I said, "Oh, could you help me with a few things?" Because before I got a hold of you to speak to you, your name actually came up a fair bit from other people I've spoken to. So
yeah.
I've got you coming on for this episode, but I've got guys who I've got planned for, in future episodes, because I didn't want to sort of bombard everyone in, say, Sydney or all my, closer friends and trying to spread the love out. And your name came up a fair bit about, you might want to speak to this guy. And I thought, yeah, I do want to speak to him. But I'd ask why. Like, why would you want me to speak to him? And the amount of times I heard that you were part of this engine committee thing, and that's what I said to you. You part of that? You go, no, not a part of it. And I thought, and that comes back to your transparency. I'm not saying what the people told me was lies or anything, but it's just we don't get told nothing, and then we try and sort of find out who's talking to who, and somewhere along the line, someone's picked you up to be a figurehead in the committee of some sort, and that's where it came out. So.
Yeah, if anything, I'm probably the opposite. I've probably butted heads with the committee over it more than anybody else, really. And probably there's been a few things that a bit of shit stirring is not far away. When if sometimes
bread stirring, it's called bread stirring.
Yeah, sometimes you have to sort of push the boundaries a little bit to find out what's going on and make things happen. And I mean, I know that I offered to basically do some testing and help them out with an alternative engine to try and basically, from what we know, a lot of the issue around changing engines has got to do with the insurances, and obviously the V8 engine or whatever we're going to go to or people want to go to has been brought up. And the story we're hearing is it's not so much the horsepower, it's the lap times. They don't want us getting, don't want us going a second quicker a lap or anything like that. So I spoke to someone on the National Committee and asked them to put forward a proposal for us to get a dispensation to actually start testing a motor with a formula and work on maybe putting a restrictor into a motor to bring the lap times to something that's comparative to what we are now. Everybody takes that as, I want to go to this motor or I don't like this motor. I love the motor we've had has been great. Now, but it's not that I hate the motor or I don't like V6s or anything like that. It's 100% that our motor prices are skyrocketing at the moment. We've got, you look at, say, your CT525, the prices are almost comparative to what a new wingless engine is. And I mean, we all know there's 15 to 20 grand wingless motors coming out of engine builders at the moment. And you'll always get the guy who goes, oh, I can do this for 3 grand or this for 5
That was a good post. That was a good post.
You love those. And you go, all right, well, you let me know which motor in the Aussie Title A mains was a 3 grand motor.
Yep.
Like, it sucks because I'm not an engine builder. I got a basic knowledge of the thing to get them going and that sort of thing. But knowing that you go to an Australian title with a chance to have your engine pulled down at the end of it, you're not going to take a chance with something you pulled out of a wrecker. So the first thing I do is send a motor or get a motor that's been built by someone who knows what the hell they're doing. Now, as soon as you do that, you bring engine builders into the fray, and an engine builder's time is exponential and their pricing is, it is what it is, which is where you get your $15,000, $20,000 motors.
Yep.
It's not the parts. It's literally the engine builder's time. So engine builder time's only going up. Engine builders are getting harder to find. We've just lost another one here in Adelaide. Look at the sprint car guys. They're struggling to find engine builders. So we're sort of piggybacking on those. And if you walk into Pete Morris and ask him to build you a sprint car motor or a wingless motor, he's going to put his time on the sprint car motor first. So it is a lot harder to get wingless motors built by someone who knows what they're doing. I mean, there's guys who specialise in it, like Jack McCarthy's doing a lot of them at the moment, stuff like that. And I know what the pricing for him to build one is, and it's north of 10 grand. And it's getting to the stage now where if you're getting into a class, you've got the LS sprint cars where all the running gear is the same as what we're running. Basically, the only difference is the motors and a couple of wings. Their motor prices are coming down because the more of those around, the more availability, the price of those things as a second-hand motor are very comparative to what a wingless motor is.
Now,
Now,
sorry,
for someone on the outside looking in,
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. The motor you're talking about, is that the CT525 you're talking about or not?
yeah,
Okay,
basically,
all right. Just so I
which
know,
is what the majority of the
because
guys, yeah,
everyone speaks about different motors. All right, so we're talking about CT525.
so,
Yep. Sorry,
or
continue.
the
Sorry.
LS, the pro sprints can run both. So,
Yep.
you know, the more of those guys, and I mean, the AM cars are running the same sort of thing. Like there's 3 or 4 divisions already running that motor, so the availability of those is becoming more and more. They're a perfect built motor you can buy off the shelf. You eliminate an engine builder straight away by doing that.
Yep.
So their pricing isn't going to sort of necessarily skyrocket. I mean, it goes up with everything as it goes up. Obviously, everything's getting dearer because of the dollar. But their pricing, because they're getting more available, is realistically coming down, where our motors, because of the availability of parts, are only going up.
Yep.
So we're at the point now where if we don't make a move now, we're going to miss the boat. I think we should have made the move to a new motor or have something in the works already.
Okay.
The way I look at it, say we decided tomorrow we're going to go to the CT525 or whatever it is. Let's say we're going to Ecotech, whatever, who cares? It's a 3 to 5 year phase in realistically for us to change that motor. You know, what's the price of wingless going to be in motor in 5 years' time?
Oh.
If you can find parts for one, what's it going to be worth?
If you're talking
if
L27,
they're already 15 to 20 now. Like, you know, what are you going to pay for one then?
I kind
You're looking at 30 if you can find the parts.
Imagine that. Think of 30 grand. I can I can understand when you phase in, you get the guys who jump almost straight away to the 525. They want the V8, boom, gone. To me, I see then you'd like to think you'd then get a bit of a extra engine pool of the L27s floating around to keep those ones going. Because there are people out there who simply, all right, if they go and spend 10 grand on a motor, so they go buy their package, and you got to look at the moment, right? Here in New South Wales, wingless, you can almost not give them away again. Like when Parramatta closed down, all our cars became worth zero. Yet we're looking north and south, west, and we're seeing cars selling. So if you say, at the moment, I think going rate Australia-wide, it's probably around about early 20s for a car. And I'm going to say reasonable, okay? Like reasonable car. We want it to be top 5 sort of deal. So some people are stretched to get to that, and I respect that. Then they've got to go and put the money into this motor. I still feel you've got to have a V6 category or division of it.
Yeah,
for those people.
And that's the bit that, you know, sort of a lot of people are getting upset. The moment you start talking about a CT525, you know, go into a LS motor or a V8 or a crate motor, you know, all of a sudden they think you want to throw out the V6s. Well, unfortunately, the V6s are dying a natural death, and I've seen it in other divisions. What happens the moment your parts become scarce? You know, the price of, you know, the New Zealand guys found it a couple of years ago with one of their midget divisions. Their prices went from being a $6,000 motor to a $25,000 motor inside a season, purely because all the wreckers that have those bike motors found out, you know, they want them.
Yep.
You know, availability is what governs price.
Yep.
And we don't have the parts available for another 5 years. And I know Dade Elvis are going down the path of trying to find alternative parts and stuff like that, but you're putting band-aids on something that realistically needs to be let go.
I mean,
and they don't like saying that, and they don't like hearing that, but unfortunately,
it is what it is.
We need to look at the next 10 years.
They've been talking about motors we came in 2017, end of 2017, whatever it was, and there was talk about it then. And I can remember I always wondered, why didn't we progress earlier to the Ecotechs? And you gave me a very good reason why we didn't, which I never thought about.
Yeah, well, the Ecotechs, I mean, a lot of the modifieds and street stock guys have already pretty much pilfered a lot of those out of the system already. So the wreckers are already starting to run, lower those. They have their own issues as well. But the way I personally look at it, if an engine isn't currently being made, why would you go to that engine?
Yeah, that's very
you're
good
buying, there was talk of Magnum motors and stuff like that. Now those things haven't been getting made for 10 years. So you've already limited to what's available there. Like, if you're going to a new motor program and you can't buy something that's brand new, you're kidding yourself. Like, you really are. Like, I'm at the point now where would I want to buy another brand new wingless motor or get a big wingless motor built, because there's no such thing as a brand new one. Trying to get a brand new block's not going to happen. So, would you want to go and spend money on a motor that, who knows how long you're going to have it for? And I know they go on about, they've locked it into 2029. Well, rules change. If we all got together tomorrow and said, let's vote for this, that's how things change. We had a weight rule that was locked in forever until someone put a motion forward and we changed it.
I hate that weight rule. That's killed us.
Yeah. Well, I think the big majority of us understand that weight rule is, impractical.
I look at these young kids now coming through, especially when I went to South Australia with Mildura, and I'm seeing these young kids walking around, and I'm thinking, like, I can't remember some of the female races too, and I'm thinking, how are you guys making weight? Like, I know the problems we have, but anyway, they've got us on the weight thing, and now these motors. Look,
I've never bought a race car part because it's lighter. Okay. I buy titanium stuff because I can ring Will and say I need this for this part of the car. He knows exactly what it is. Now, if I have to go to a shop and say I need a 316 1/8 thread, like, I don't know what the hell I'm getting. Like, titanium's a stronger product, doesn't rust. Realistically, it's superior in every single way, and the difference between a titanium bolt kit and a steel bolt kit is something like 1.4 kilos for a whole car. Like, it's not the change of the world that they try and make out. I can go and buy a lithium battery and save 6 kilo.
Yeah.
For a couple $100. If I'm chasing weight, it's not titanium and stuff.
No.
It's frustrating like that with some of the rules and the justifications to say that it's a budget thing. Well, there's a lot dearer things on the race car. If they want to save some money, maybe let's not all send all the reps to the national conference and do it over a Skype meeting or something like that.
Oh, there we go. I knew I was going to get something out of you. There we go.
Well, in this day and age, the technology's there. So why do we all have to fly to the same place and all the members pay for it?
That's true. That's true.
Let's be honest.
So what? Okay, you've thought a bit about the motor situation. What motor would you be looking at? Are you happy to go down the road of the CT525s?
Yeah, I think that's probably the practical one, knowing that it's, that's being currently made still. You can buy it off the shelf. I mean, Botches have got them. I looked it up before, just in case. You can literally buy it brand new. Now, when I say brand new, that's literally never done a kilometre.
Yep.
So they're 20 grand, like 19.8 or something, 20 grand. And now, I understand 20 grand is not in everybody's budget, but that is literally a brand new motor that hasn't done a kilometre. You buy a built wingless motor, how many kilometres has the block done?
Well,
how many kilometres is the rotating gear? Because you can't buy rotating gear.
No.
So how many kilometres are you buying for something that still isn't actually a new motor?
I thought those CT525s at 20 grand were, like, by the time you bolted stuff to them and got them race ready, you're up around 40. Yeah. That's what I've been told at the Australian title.
They're not quite that, but yeah, they're obviously a little bit more.
I'm a bit concerned. I want to keep playing with the V6. I'm going to put my head in the sand and go, at the moment we're good, but we're not. I want to hope that our committees are doing what they're doing, and that's looking for a solution.
Yeah, I'd love to wake up tomorrow morning and find out that Toyota have released a new Camry with a V6 motor that'll fit straight into our race cars, and we can buy them for $5 grand. But realistically, there isn't a product out there that we can buy that's available to do it. So we need to figure out something that is getting made. The price range is coming to, obviously, and this is the problem we also get. People don't want to compare apples with apples. Like, you start saying the 525 is 20 grand plus your bolt-ons are say they're 10 grand for all your bolt-ons or whatever. Let's go over the top and say it's a 30 grand motor.
Okay. Yep.
That's a brand new motor. You don't have to buy a brand new motor.
No.
Guys
no.
are selling them secondhand. So if you can't afford to buy a brand new motor,
well, okay, no, that's a valid point. That's a very good point. I never once thought about the secondhand market of these CT525s.
Yeah, there was one last year getting around in Victoria that I think it was selling for like 12 grand.
Oh, geez. All right.
That's
okay.
the same price as the wingless motor now. So, and that's with all the fruit bolted on, ready to go.
That changes many things.
And like I said, when you've got AM cars, you've got the crates coming into late models, you've got 3 or 4 other divisions where all of a sudden you haven't just got the 100 wingless guys running it or the few hundred wingless guys running that motor. You've got 4 or 5 divisions all going to have secondhand motors available. Like you're flooding the market by by having more of us running them.
That's a very good point, man. That's I got to well done. I never thought about that. So that
and it is one of those things. Unfortunately, people look at it and go, "Oh, it's scary. It's the $20,000-$30,000 motor." Yeah, well, if you want to buy something brand new and have all the shiny bits, the wingless is 30 grand as well. If you want to bolt one of them things together, brand new.
Yeah. I mean, If
you know what a new tail tank's worth, so you go and buy an ATL tail tank, or you go buy one second hand. Like, if you want to have all the good new shiny stuff, I mean, you buy stuff new because it's reliable.
Yep.
That's why there's not a lot on a wingless you can buy that's brand new that's going to outperform a second hand part if their second hand parts looked after. Yes. But you do it because you should be able to rely on it to actually do the job what it's going to do. That's why we buy new stuff. That's why we have all the shiny bits on our race cars, because we should be able to realistically expect it to survive and do what it's supposed to. And no one wants to cut the budget guys out of the class. We're all happy. We all need those guys to a point. We all want them to run, but you can't build a class purely around the budget guys.
No.
You look at Formula One, and the way they work with Formula One is they cap spending at the top end. They don't cater for the bottom end guys. So if you naturally cap top end, and by bringing in something that's a purpose-built crate motor, you've capped the spending there. Keep running up the price on these second-hand wingless motors, and you've got engine builders you can't control the price on. That spending's exponential over the next 10 years. It really is. Like it's a scary thing when you actually, and I've seen it happen in other divisions.
Right.
It does happen, and it will happen. I don't want to be the.
No. I think actually, I'm going to be honest with you, Brett. You've really surprised me tonight with just looking at this whole motor thing from a different point of view. I'd never thought about the second-hand market of the CT525s, which is silly because thinking about it now, you're right. There's got to be close to maybe 50 or so sitting around Australia already. You'd be able to get your hands on.
Division,
yeah.
You look at the LS sprint car division; it's taken off now. So they're going to steal LA drivers. We're already seeing a lot of the good wingless guys jumping ship.
Yep.
And I've spent a couple of nights crewing, for a couple of them as well. And it's a lot of the guys that when I got into wingless, they were in wingless, and like they've said to me, the LS division is fun at the moment. Guys are helping each other to go out there and race.
Yep.
Where I think we've lost a little bit of that from the wingless at the moment. Guys aren't necessarily helping each other as much as they used to. People are sort of making it hard to race.
Do you reckon that's because, over the wingless time, especially, well, as I said, I only came in late, but do you think it's because since, say, 2019-ish, we had COVID, things slowed down, do you think it's because everyone started spending more money on their race cars? We're buying more things like, everyone now has got custom-made suits. Nearly everyone now has got custom-made painted helmets. Everyone now has got,
budget.
Apparently so. Open trailers. Open trailers are gone. Look at guys with adjustable shocks, for crying out loud. How many guys do you see running around with the Swindoll bleeders and stuff like that? I'm like, do you think that's maybe why we're not being as buddy as we used to be? Because sort of everyone's spending that money, they want to be the.
I mean, the class has evolved away from what it was. I mean, when it first started, it was that budget class. I mean, for sure, it's definitely evolved to a point where now the stuff that we're running and the professionalism in a lot of these teams is just completely beyond what I'm sure Nashi and the guys who started the division ever sort of dreamed it was going to get to.
Yeah.
They probably hoped, but realistically, we've stepped beyond that, and I think that's a big reason that the other thing is, if we did go to a crate motor format, I could see there being the opportunity to maybe even have a split in the division. Now, I'm sure the AWSR guys are going to lose their crap, but the SCCA run two different divisions. Why can't the AWSR look at maybe entertaining the thought of running a crate motor section and a V6 section for a while, if that's what we need to do? Because you'll find the budget guys will stay in the V6 stuff, and these guys that have the suits and the bleeders and the custom, everything else and all the fancy bits are the ones that will jump straight to the V8s, you know. And everybody gets scared when you say the V8s. We're not talking about, you know, they're a 533 horsepower motor. No one's asking you to put a 410 in these things.
Yeah, that's right.
No one's realistically wanting to even. I mean, there's guys that like to, because it'd be good fun to run the 533 horsepower, but the product we're asking to do is that we're asking to work on a formula that we could run alongside the V6 guys with a restrictor.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's not because we want to necessarily have a bigger motor or spend, you know, extra money on this. It's because we want something that we can buy that's new, reliable, and we know in 10 years' time we can still run it.
Yeah.
You know, there's also the crossover potential where I could stick a restrictor in, run without the wings this week. I can stick a wing on it next week and go run at Bordertown at the new track with the LS guys.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Like,
yeah.
I know there's a lot of track up. I remember speaking with Millsy when he was at Warrnambool there, and the idea of that, where you could have the same guys running the same motor in two different classes with wings one week and wingless the next, is something that, you know, he was absolutely keen as hell for. And why wouldn't you be as a promoter? You double your competitor base basically.
That would be awesome.
You know?
I see that now in like the Formula 500s just north of me. Well, a lot of the guys pulled the wings off and run that power or something like that. I'm not sure what it is. Power, yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, the 500s have done that. Like, they fought Speedway Australia for years to be allowed to run without wings. And I mean, that's a slippery slope as well. And then all of a sudden you get another insurer comes in. You've got the Power Eye guys, and they've said, all right, well, we'll let you guys run without wings. And it's taken off. Like, Lake Liddell was probably one of the best things to have happened to Australian Speedway in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know that Darlington's looking, or Mortlake, Darlington, whatever you want to call it, is looking at running a V8 wingless show through Power Eye. Yeah.
Really?
It's happening. And,
wow.
And that's the thing that AWSR need to be careful with as well, because we've already seen a split with the LS wingless motors. You know, there was that push a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's ever been successful or not, it's another story. But if they don't do something to accommodate the drivers that at that point where they're looking for something else, they're going to jump ship and lose their members because of now. I'm sure there's a few people on the committee that are hoping, you know, that a few of us will piss off because they don't like us anyway. They'd be more than happy to see the back of a couple of us who, you know, don't just sit here and shut up and, you know, pretend we're a mushroom in the dark, because we actually understand a little bit more of what's going on. But yeah, it is happening. You can either be a part of it and control it, or you can put your head in the sand and it'll happen on its own, and all of a sudden you realise you've got nothing left because everybody's changed. So, you know, it is difficult for them, and I just hate that this whole engine thing's been happening, and this engine committee's been around for, what, 5 years or so now, and what progress are we seeing?
I'm not sure.
We literally haven't seen, like, I've heard stories that they're trying to source blocks and get someone to make blocks for us, and great in principle, but what happens when all of a sudden someone has a monopoly on a product? Do you think they're going to make them for $500 today, and they'll still be $500 in 2 years?
So that's one of my biggest concerns when we spoke. I spoke with someone a few weeks back about a controlled tyre. Running another series, another division on dirt, We had, and the way I bought that car was it's a controlled series, therefore everything's out of the one person, and blah blah. We buy it's all cheap, and you go down that road thing, and this is great, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you realise there was a reason why there was a free market in karting
Yeah.
because it kept the prices low. Whereas we were buying tyres off that particular division, which were American racers, had their own stamp for like $200 odd,
Yeah.
and I think Cooper was selling them for $90 without the stamp.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hang on a second. And that's what I'm concerned about moving forward with a controlled tyre. I understand that
Yeah.
people think we need to address the tyre situation. Yeah, maybe we do, but we need to make sure we do it and it's not taking from the competitors.
Yeah, for sure. I think the tyre thing is one of the biggest budget issues. I mean, if they were serious about the budget side of things when they bought the weight rule in, they should have bought the tyre rule in instead.
Yeah.
Because, I remember back in the day, you might bolt on a new tyre for a state title or an Aussie title. Well, these days I go to Murray Bridge and at a club show, which pays, well, now it pays nothing.
Yep.
Was paying, say our club shows were about $200 to win it. And you roll down the dummy grid before an AMA and you'll have 6 or 7 guys with a brand new tyre on. $450 tyre to go out and win $200. Like,
wait, $450. Where are you getting your tyres from?
Yeah, well, that was back then.
Jeez.
Now, yeah.
Wow.
But, you can't justify doing that. And,
No.
I refuse to do it. But at the end of the day, I'm sort of getting old and grumpy and, I don't necessarily race like I need to at certain shows. I wait until there's actually something worth running to before we really try. I mean, I know we can match it with the best guys around still if we need to and when we need to, but I'm not interested in going out and blowing the doors off my own car and wrecking my shit trying to pass for third place at a club show at Murray Bridge to win a piece of plastic or $100. Like it doesn't make any sense to me anymore.
Right.
So you pick and choose your battles, and there's a lot of guys out there who probably don't have the maturity to do that at the moment. We've seen, this year the week before the Aussie title, we had the front two guys get together at the bridge at a club show and nearly destroy both their cars. It's like, have a think about it, boys. Like, you don't need to do that. Have a think of the occasion. Like, use your brains, and it is hard. Like, and that's one thing you don't necessarily see in the higher divisions because they understand that. And especially the other thing is, like, you go to America, and these guys have a lot more respect for each other because they race more often.
Yeah, week in, week out. Yeah, well, day in, day out, really.
They don't overdrive it. They give each other room and they know each other and they have a lot more respect for each other because of it. Whereas I think a big problem we've got coming into the class as well, we tend to have a lot of car owners. Or we're starting to head down that car owner path where we're getting young guys in.
So you think with Wingless right now, you think we're getting a trend of car owners to drivers?
Oh, we've got half a dozen car owners in South Australia at the moment that, they have guys drive the car. Some of them are good and some of them...
Yeah, no, I'd never thought of it like that. You're right. I'm actually ticking over cars in SA at the moment. You're right. Yeah, okay, yep.
And with that, it becomes a little bit of a double-edged sword. Like, it's good to see that and it's great to have young guys in the sport, but when the guys aren't paying or fixing their own race car, the respect for the race car and the other competitors can be questionable. You also see that thing where the car owner isn't their dad or, aren't their parents. So if the driver makes a mistake, they tend not to actually tell them it's a mistake. You end up with them trying to justify what's happened to the drivers. We end up with a few cheerleaders rather than people who should be telling the kid they've stuffed up.
Yeah, right, okay.
I've seen guys drive straight through other guys and take them out. And
I think
they come back to the pits and, this happened. Oh, well, he shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done that. Well, sometimes the kid stuffs up and they need to be told that too.
Yep.
Like, it is hard.
But I think a lot of that comes back to, we've got this rule book and in it says it's a non-contact sport. And we need to start, I know...
It's netball, but
I know, and that's why I enjoy ice hockey. But I think we need to come back to the point where too often we hear the story where I didn't see it, or it was a racing like I think those. I'm not saying excuses, but those responses perhaps maybe used a little bit too much.
Yeah, and this is another thing with Australian Speedway. Like, you look at it with the sprint car boys. I think our sprint car guys are over stewarded. And
Oversteward.
it
Yeah.
over stewarded. Yeah, for sure.
Some
The primary cause rule and stuff like that. Like, people don't like. I'm probably a little bit more old school. Like, I'd prefer to see the guys take each other out once, sort it out. Let
and
them
never
have a
do it again.
punch.
Yeah.
The guys in the States race and give each other racing room and respect, because if you take me out today, well, guess what's happening to your car next week? You're going over the fence.
I can
They learn
understand.
pretty quickly.
I can understand why we don't do that because that's just that could end badly. If you got someone with
We
your
saw it in
payroll,
Perth this year. We saw it in Perth this year with the sprint car guys. There was two or three of them, and they were some big wrecks. And it's getting to the point where someone's going to get hurt because of it.
yeah, I do recall
They
that.
need to let them sort it out somewhere other than the track every now and again too.
Well, thankfully, that's sprint cars and not wingless, and let's hope wingless we stay good, we stay calm. But listen, I see your race car behind you there. You're going to pull it out and bring it out to Mildura this year. What's going on this
That's
season?
the plan. Yeah. So the last couple of years, I really, with work and stuff, I've been sort of not so much stepping away, but just haven't had the passion to sort of get involved and do a lot more than we have done. I've sort of just been keeping my 3 or 4 shows for my logbook and just keeping finger in the pie. But the idea has run through my head of maybe giving it away or putting someone else in the car.
Well, you're a good car owner, that's for sure.
We've got Bordertown opening up just down the road. We've got the new I-55, basically. You wouldn't want to miss out on having a crack at that joint. No. Aussie titles at Mildura, South Australia will be coming around the rotation, not too far away again. So there's all those things that come into play too. Whether we put another car on the track as well. I think the biggest problem for me is when I started, we had a lot of crew guys, and it was good fun. Like, that's half the thing with racing. It's good fun. Last 4 or 5 years, I've had pretty much no crew. I've had a couple of guys every now and again who'll try and help out, but can be a bit of a control freak. So I tend to do a lot of it myself anyway. I feel like it's my name on the car and my ass in the seat if something goes wrong.
Yep.
So it is hard to relinquish that and let someone else do things for me. But with that, it also gets to a stage where it's a lot of work to do on your own. And even when you have a good night, like, you can go out and win a race and, you jump in the truck by the time you leave the track and that's the end of it. Like, you're not coming back to the shed and getting on the piss and washing the car the next day with the boys and talking crap about it. Like, it's done.
No.
And it's a lot of work for not a lot of enjoyment when you're doing that on your own. It does wear down on you. So
yeah, but I mean, the boys in the pits, I've really enjoyed traveling last few years. The camaraderie you get in the pit area, new people.
Yeah.
You do a quick little standoff, like two dogs in a dog park where you're from. Once you get over that, it's all good. And normally you have beers with just about anybody, which is great. So, which is why I love it. But look.
Yeah, and when I met you guys, like, it was the same thing. Like, we stayed in the pits and you guys were camping in the pits, which made it a bit easier. So we pits and had a yarn. Like, when I grew up, like I said, getting dragged around the tracks as a little tacker, we never left the pits before the sun came up. I still remember walking around, everyone would be in the pits talking, eating chicken at Murray Bridge and on the beers, and us kids would walk around the tracks and find bits of the old barbecue chicken at the bridge, mate. Used to go right. So nice. We'd walk around the track and find your bloody Zeusies and bits of broken race cars.
I got my friend Jason Davis. He's young fella, Cody. He comes to some of the races with us, and he'll jump on the quad bike and he'll go after a race, and what he brings back, it's awesome to see. Yeah.
Set up blocks and Zeusies, like, you would believe.
Everything.
Tie belts.
And the thing is,
back.
I sort of think back to if I was his age, I used to run around and pick up old tear-offs and shit. I used to get the crap, but he gets the good stuff. So normally we throw him some lollies and we get some parts. But hey, man, look, I won't keep you. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
No.
It was great talking to you. I look forward to seeing you again at one of the tracks. So hopefully Mildura or even at the new track down.
We'll be there either way.
So yeah. But no, thanks very much for that, man. Before we go, I try and give everyone an opportunity to thank
Yep.
sponsors, people that help them. I know you're very self sufficient, but please let's give a big thanks to the guys that help you.
Yeah, well, obviously the Speedway shop's probably the main ones that have helped me out over the years. Like Allison and Harry with the American Racer deals, sort of been really good. Obviously through the speed cars and the ongoing support. I mean, just the work they do with speed cars, especially, but that's translated into the wingless as well. Obviously, all our tyres have always come through them at the right price, and
Yeah.
it's definitely been one of the big things that's kept us going down the road. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that have sort of helped us out with bits and pieces here and there, but yeah, it's one of those things that as we move forward, like I'm starting to do a bit of crew chiefing and stuff now in sprint cars. There's stuff that comes from those guys as well that have helped us out over the years. Like it's everyone helps everyone. Hopefully the world goes round. So
That's
yeah,
it. Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks again. Everyone, thanks very much for that episode. Stay tuned for the next one. But for now, I'll see you next time. Thank you.
thanks, mate.